Welcome to Washington East to West Sports. This is episode 84. I am Matt Beatty, joined alongside, as usual, by Sean Beatty and Kevin Ardell. If you want to get involved in the show, go ahead and tweet us. I'm at Beatty_Matt. Sean is Sean Beatty. Kev is at C2Believe, SEA to Believe. Go ahead and leave some comments on our YouTube. Tell us what you think of the show. Like our videos, dislike our videos, whatever you want to do. Let's touch on a few quick Seattle sports before we get into a lot of big topics today. We're going to talk about the OL Reign first. They have had a decent slate while we have been away for the last couple of weeks. They tied with the Portland Thorns right before we came back. Then they lost the Kansas City Current 1-0. Then they defeated Angel City FC this last Saturday 3-2. They are on the road one more time in Louisville to I guess today, if you're probably watching this, August 2nd. So watch them on Paramount Plus if you have it. And then they're back at home at Lumen Field on August 7th. That's this Sunday, 3 p.m. Pacific. And then the New York, New Jersey Gotham FC is also coming to town the following Sunday, August 14th at noon. That's also on Paramount Plus. So please get out there and support the Reign if you can. Let's also talk about the Seattle Storm. They've had a kind of back and forth schedule since we've been last on the podcast. They lost to Chicago, Phoenix, Connecticut, and Washington, but they did earn a win at Washington as well as a win against Atlanta. Sue Bird's home finale is next Sunday. I know I was planning on going, but they're all sold out. So if you don't have a ticket, you aren't going. So I'm hoping they play a playoff game and I can make that. But so Sue Bird's final game against the Las Vegas Aces is sold out this Sunday. They have one more home game on Wednesday against the Minnesota Lynx. So please get out there and support Sue Bird and the Seattle Storm as their regular season winds down. And then the Seattle Sounders have had a mix of games while we were away. They were able to they lost to Chicago 1-0, and then they were down to 10 men against Colorado last Saturday and won 2-1 against Colorado. And then this most recent Friday, they lost 2-1 against LAFC. So please get out there, support the Sounders, support the Storm, support the Reign. But we have a lot to talk about in terms of two specific teams. And we're going to start with the team that has just begun preparing for the 22-23 season. That is the Seattle Seahawks. And let us start with the biggest news since training camp has started. That would be DK Metcalf. He has signed a 3-year, $72 million extension that includes $58.2 million in guarantees. The guaranteed total includes a $30 million signing bonus, the highest ever for a wide receiver. So we're not going to get into camp impressions quite yet. We might do that a little bit later. But Sean, what do you think of this DK Metcalf extension?
It's not horrible. Like I thought, like just like throwing gobs of money at him. I think he slots into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in overall receiver money. Yeah, eighth most year for value. Now some of those change because Tyreek Hill's not going to really get the 30 a year. Neither is Devontae Adams going to get the 28 because they're going to do funky things with the contracts. We all know how that works. But in general, he didn't break the market, which is fine. I don't think, again, like, do we think he's a better wide receiver than Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuels, things like that? Probably not. However, that's what happens when these contracts show up. He's the newest guy, gets the biggest deal, usually. Kind of you see with quarterbacks all the time. This is Mahomes, like Mahomes, the 7th best quarterback? No, but that's his contract right now. So it's fine. It's the ebbs and flows of it. Who's going to throw him the football? That's a different story, but it's good for DK. He's still young. He's going to, this is clearly I'm going to see what you're doing, Seattle contract, because I think he's a free agent at 28. Is that, I'm reading that correct? Yeah. And then he's going to be like, let's see where my future goes. So it's okay. It's fine. He's going to max out about 10% of the cap in 2024 as it stands right now. That is subject to change, obviously, but yeah, we'll see.
Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of had to spend money somewhere after getting rid of Russell and Bobby and a bunch of other people, so might as well, I guess. As far as whether he deserves it, like as Sean mentioned, probably not, because I think he's like, as I've mentioned before, so I'm not going to go crazy into it. He still doesn't know how to use his body in 50-50 balls. His route running tree is amateur at best for a pro receiver, especially with the size and speed. And hands are getting a little bit better, but like, is he a top 10 receiver in this league? Absolutely not. He's a gifted freak athlete, but like in receiver, you got to have the whole package, not only of athleticism, but also route running, hands, and technically, I guess, being able to block too. So all in all, as Sean mentioned, it's 3 years. So he clearly didn't want to sign for 4 or more, just because he wants to and he's mentioned this on interviews before, he wants to be in the Hall of Fame, and it's kind of hard to do that when you have Geno Smith or Drew Lock throwing to you, because the yards from Russell Wilson down to whatever you throw, whatever bag of poop you throw behind center for the next 3 years is a definite downgrade. So especially since you're going to be running the ball more because Pete Carroll's still there. So all in all, I'm happy to see him get paid. I'm glad that he's happy. He's going to show up, and we'll get to the results on our future podcast. But
Can I say something that Kevin brought up? I thought it was interesting that he said, I don't want to be in the Hall of Fame, and not didn't say want to win a Super Bowl. He just said, I want to go in the Hall of Fame. I was like, okay, all right. That's for someone who we ran out of town for not being a team player. That's not a team player answer. So, but I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I really think the move was, it was expected. I think for the most part, I think it is a good move to lock him in for another 4, at least until 2027. I think at this point, he's probably the face of the franchise. You can make the argument for Tyler. You can make the argument for maybe Quandre Diggs, Jamal Adams,
I think,
Jordan Brooks. Take your pick.
It's DK or Jamal.
I think it's probably DK. DK
Yeah.
or Quandre would probably be my 2 picks for face of the franchise.
I think maybe locally, but nationally, it's Jamal Adams or DK. I think.
Yeah. Well, no, I think nationally and locally, I would say it's probably DK. And
Yeah,
it's probably I guess Jamal Adams, but I think Quandre Diggs probably has more of a leadership role. But
I don't think the average person knows who Quandre Diggs is. Like, I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't think
that's fine. I would still say he's the leader.
Everyone knows who Jamal Adams is.
Fair. But I think this is good to lock him in. Like Kevin mentioned, we don't know who's going to be throwing the ball every single year, but at the very least, we know he will be here catching football. So that is something I like. So DK Metcalf, if you have a DK Metcalf jersey, it's going to age well for the next probably 3 years. So that's nice for you. But I think this is well deserved, and I'm glad he's going to be a Seahawk for the next few years. And him and Tyler are arguably one of the best duos in the league. So it's nice to have those guys for at least a few more years. So hopefully somebody throwing in the football will emerge. But let us also talk about that other guy who's the face of the franchise, and that would be Jamal Adams. He is dealing with a hand injury. Now, I believe reports out of camp today were that he practiced and he has a club hand, is what I saw on Twitter, at least a photo of him with like a club hand. So I believe it's his middle finger, if I'm not mistaken. Let me make sure I get that finger right. Is going to get some time to get his left hand examined, according to Pete Carroll last Thursday. So
they fused 2. I can't say specifically which 2. I don't know which 2 they fused.
So this is obviously going to impact him this season. He was talking about having surgeries, getting a few opinions, but at least at this point, it sounds like he is going to be playing week 1. And I'm going to start with my takes on this. It's tough because I feel like Jamal Adams' career in Seattle has been just injury plagued the entire time. Like, he's never truly been fully healthy, except for maybe the first time he showed up at camp. There's a lot of people who say, the Jamal Adams trade was bad. You can go either way on that. I don't really care. But I feel like if he's fully healthy, he'll be a good safety, but I don't think he's ever been fully healthy here. That being said, if you're out on the field, you need to play well, and Jamal Adams has not done that. So this makes me very concerned for that safety core. Honestly, if Jamal wanted to have the surgery, I'd be okay with that and have Brian Neal out there for a year. I know we pay Jamal Adams a lot of money, but I would rather have 100% Jamal Adams later than a 80%. I don't know what he's at, 90% Jamal Adams out there trying to play. So it's tough because last year with all the injuries you had, you could even bring that example up for me with Russell. Like if you're not healthy, you're not playing up to your normal standards, why are you out there? So I think he should get this fixed before he gets out there, but I don't think he'll do that as a competitor. Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah. Obviously, it's got some information or something kind of going on to where it's going to cause a problem. Is it going to affect his gameplay? Probably not, since to correct Matthew's statement earlier, he's not actually safety. He's a linebacker that just goes into the safety position. He is not a safety, and he's actually not one of the best. Even when he's 100% healthy, he's not the best safety. He's actually like middle of the pack / lower end of all safeties in the league. So, yeah, I mean, he has that presence where he can get sacks and stuff like that, but I would like to see him healthy just because I'd like to see him transition and hopefully get better and actually become a decent safety. That's why I personally want to see him out there, just because with us giving up 2 first-round picks, which in signing him, which technically was part of the stepping stones that went to Russell leaving. I want him, I don't want that to all be for nothing, so to speak. I want to see him play, get better, do safety, and help turn this defense that's a hot pile of dog shit around to be at least a top 15 and hopefully the goal to be a top 10 defense. But you can't really do that if your hand is clubbed or swollen. Clubbed, I'd have to see a real picture because a clubbed hand is completely different. And
I'll bring it up here.
With usually like hypertension and having heart issues versus like inflammation and it just being swollen. So I'm guessing it's just like it's high amounts of inflammation and it's just swollen to shit is what I imagine. Oh, okay. He has it in a actual.
It's not like I know it's a hard cast. I'm pretty sure.
Cast. Okay, that's.
So
it might be a soft cast.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, and you guys have more.
It's to protect the finger from jamming. So yeah, and like, yeah. So that's also not good because if in order to become a better safety, because you want him to get interceptions and put or at least prevent completion, stuff like that, you have to put your hand up to try ball going into fingers. Yeah. So all in all, should it be concerning? Probably, yeah, especially if you want him to progress and actually become a good safety for us. Otherwise, I guess Ryan McNeil's back out there if we did resign Ryan McNeil.
Yeah, he's there.
So at least we know Ryan McNeil can kind of play safety and at least knows how to do it, that part better. So, yeah, pass it off the show.
Sean, what do you think?
He needs to have surgery. Like, if it's a bone injury, I mean, I obviously wasn't in there. I've heard from the sports doc on Twitter and things like that, based on what the injury is, what the rumors they've heard. It's a bone injury. Bone injuries take 6 to 8 weeks to heal, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but usually 6 to 8 weeks. He has it now. He will miss the start of the season, but like you said, Matthew, we need a healthy Jamal Adams. This team's margin of error with Russell gone is diminished. They need healthy Jamal Adams. Healthy Jamal Adams is one of the best 2 safeties the Seahawks team rosters. Like, yes, but like Matthew said, last year, Russell Wilson undoubtedly hurt this team by playing with a finger when he couldn't grip the football. That Packers game was embarrassing. He couldn't throw the ball more than 15 yards, and everybody knew it. And we talked about it last year. At a certain point, 50% of Russell, 80% of Jamal Adams, what point does you diminished returns? Are you worse than the guy behind you? Because we all saw for about 4 or 5 weeks, Geno Smith was better than what Russell was giving us. Now, I get Russell wants to play and everything, but a lot of players just need to be And that's on Pete. A lot of players just need to be wrangled in and be like, look, you're going to hurt this team. I know you're physically, air quotes, like, okay to play, but that doesn't mean you're the best option for us to play. And as we called on this podcast last year, I talked to a doctor, talked to him again recently about this situation. He said it's going to be 8 weeks till Russell's healthy. Russell got healthy in 8 weeks. Boom, was great the last 2 weeks. Because that's just how bones heal. Same with Jamal Adams. He needs to be healthy to be effective. Like Kevin said, one of the best things you can do as a safety is intercept the football. He hasn't a hard enough time brick hands catching with 2. He needs both hands. Like teams are going to take more chances because what is Jamal Adams going to do with that thing? Like, if you knock it down, at the end of the day, you knock it down. That's all that happens. If the threat of you taking the ball away, that was the point of Sherman. Sherman and Earl sometimes got beat on those deep, double moves. We saw all the time. The famous one is when Andrew Luck in the year that won the Super Bowl, torched him with T.Y. Hill. Like, it was a T.Y.'s rookie or second or something like that. It was like his breakout. Like, he torched Sherman in that LOB. But the thing is, when you threw it at Sherman, you knew if you messed up and you were short, it was going the other way. And that's why Aaron Rodgers at a certain point was just like, I'm not even going to risk it because if I miss, it's going the other way. And at this point, they don't have to worry about that if they're kind of thrown near Jamal. And that's a big thing for a safety or a DB. Like, if you don't have, like, we'd see like linemen and D linemen, that's one thing because they're not supposed to pick it, but you need your hands. And if you don't got those hands, it's a big deal as a air quote safety. And Matthew, I think it's been established that trade was, I don't think there's any leg. That trade was horrible. Like, I mean, even the people who defended at the time were like, oh, that's cool. We have a friend who was like, she's like, yeah, that's terrible. Like, it's bad. But I'm not saying he can't redeem part of that deal, like, and come back and do this, but he needs to be healthy to do that. And I just think the smartest thing right now would be to get the surgery and be 100% and come back and play.
All right. Well, let's talk about some former Seahawks retiring as Seahawks. So last week, KJ Wright signed a one-day contract, retired as a Seahawk. So did J.R. Sweezy. I don't think he's had his press conference yet. I'm not sure he's going to do the same thing as KJ. KJ was probably a bigger staple. But and then Chris Carson officially retired at the age of 27 last week. Just some injuries that won't go away. So I've started. Sean started. Kevin, what do you think of these 3 retirements?
It's kind of, for KJ, it's kind of sad because he can still play. But if no other team's willing to take a chance, then you have Seattle's really your only option. But then now that he looks at it with Russell gone, like, what would be the point of him coming in and playing when your team's not going to get above 500? So it'd just be unless he just wants to play for the love of the game, like, type of deal, and doesn't care about records, that's fine.
It sounds like he wanted to play and the Seahawks didn't want him.
Well, and that too, yes. Because they want to go younger, quote unquote, even though they're linebacker core right now, not looking the greatest.
Right now, isn't KJ one of your best 3? Like, right now?
He would be the best linebacker out there, yeah.
Maybe Jordan Brooks, but like, he's probably.
Well, Jordan Brooks has
right?
proved consistency, yeah.
But still, like, you like potential, like you're going for, you're saying, like, like you could.
Like KJ's still like high top tier quality, probably one of the better linebackers in the league, possibly. I would say at least top half of linebackers in the league still. But even though I know he doesn't have the speed that he once did, but football knowledge and stuff like that can kind of help along with that. But so it's kind of sad to see him, but it's cool that he came back and signed a contract deal. J.R. Sweezy, I loved. There was times I loved JR and sometimes I hated JR, especially like because he caused us so many penalties at times with chop blocks mainly, and then like weird that what they thought was chop blocks, but it was just JR Sweezy falling over. I mean, for a guy that they took that as a defensive end and turned him into a guard, like he was okay. Like he wasn't like top end, but it still brings back. He's part of the Super Bowl team. So it's kind of weird now that because I still remember the Super Bowl win just like it was the other day, but you look back and it was almost 10 years now. So, And then Chris Carson, we kind of had a feeling that was going to be a deal, especially with neck injuries like that. It's just so hard to, especially when they showed the X-ray. I was like, he'd be out of his damn mind to play football again. Like, not exactly like the same as the Cam Chancellor injury, but like when you're dealing with neck issues and like that, it's just over time it can possibly heal. There's some professional wrestlers that have had similar neck injuries to Chris Carson and retired and then came back like 7 years later when they had full. I mean, now pro wrestling does take hard bumps and stuff like that, but not on the consistent basis of what you do in a football game. So I'm not going to even try to compare that. But it's just, I think it was smart by him to think of his family. I'm glad that the Seahawks didn't bitch out and they're still going to pay him, especially since, this year doesn't really matter anywho, so might as well give him the money. That way he can, take care of his own and stuff like that. All in all, I'm okay with all three of them, and yay to the Rashad Penny roulette wheel of running backs that we're going to run 80% of the time.
Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, I saw people saying like it's good on the Seahawks for taking care of KJ Wright, and my point was they want to take care of him. If he wanted to play, they could have gave him a contract. That would have been the thing he wanted, but they didn't do that. So keep that with a grain of salt. They didn't do the thing he wanted. J.R. Sweezy, yeah, it's interesting that he signs a one-day deal. I mean, it's nice, but is he a big enough player to us to hear that news? And it's like Dustin Brown, Matthew will know this. Dustin Brown getting a statue outside the Kings Stadium.
Is that really?
That's a true thing. Yeah, he's getting a statue.
Jesus Christ!
What are we doing? I respect.
That's Jonathan Quick's statue that was just stolen.
I was like, J.R. Sweezy, I appreciate him, but do we need to get updates of him signing a one-day contract? He wasn't even that great. He was okay and fine, but are we any okay player? Are we getting updates that he signed a one-day deal? And Chris Carson, yeah, like Kevin said, you have to it's happened with Max Strong was the first one that happened, and people talk about Cam Chancellor too. Any really serious spine injuries, there's not a lot of recourse for repairing that, especially trauma. You could fuse it, you could plate it, but it's just kind of the same thing. But at the end of the day, that's all you could really do. And more trauma too, that's just speeding up that aging process. And if he wants to have any semblance of playing with his kids or anything like that, you just need to call it quits. It's just bending over to pick up things off the ground. Just it's not worth it, man. You've made enough money if you spend it wisely. And hopefully you have some smart people in your corner, but yeah, don't be doing that.
Yeah, the KJ news was most certainly the saddest. I actually had the pleasure of covering KJ when he came down to Centralia for a football camp. Got to interview him. Real nice guy. Just an excellent linebacker when he was here. So hopefully Ring of Honor for sure for KJ. He's easily one of the best Seahawks. We talked about the Mount Rushmore. I would say top 10 for me, easily. So KJ, look forward to your future. Maybe love to see him in the Seahawks broadcasting booth. That sounds like a potential. Maybe radio on the sidelines. Take over for the late great John Clayton. So lots of options for KJ there. JR, I just saw it that the Seahawks tweeted out, so I was like, we'll throw it on there because that's news. But yeah, no, JR was a good part of this team in his time here, but not the same sentiment as KJ for sure, because KJ was part of one of the greatest defenses of all time. And then Chris Carson, I think I said this on the podcast when he went out last year, a neck injury, he's done. It's just in a position where you're handed the ball and told to run into a play with 11 people trying to take your head off. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. There's no way you're going to come back from that. And it's good that, he called it quits. It's sad that his career is over, but like Sean said, he's made a good amount of money in the league. And, he certainly did a great deal for the Seahawks while he was here. So it's unfortunate, but injuries are part of the game still. So hopefully Chris Carson will find some success in the future as well. So, well, with that, Jacksonville, Vegas this Thursday. You guys ready for some Hall of Fame game football? Yeah. Yeah? No, that was a joke. And then the Seahawks are at Pittsburgh August 13th for the first preseason game. So we get to see the Geno Seahawks, the Lock Seahawks, whatever. We'll see.
I'll be quarterbacking this team.
You'll be quarterbacking this team? Well, you heard it here first. It goes Erdahl and then Smith, Lock on the depth chart, I think. So get ready to see Kevin out there in action. So go ahead and let us know what you think of DK getting extended Jamal Adams hand injury. Go ahead and tweet us. I'm at Bader_Matt. Sean's at Sean_Betty. Kev's at Kev's with. Oh, I did it again. SEA to believe.
Just change it back.
At SEA to believe. Comment on our YouTube page, like our videos, dislike our videos, tell us what you think of all the topics we talk about. But gentlemen, it is August, and you know what? It's baseball season finally. So let's talk about some Seattle Mariners baseball. And since we were last on the podcast, the All-Star break was going on, and the Mariners win streak sadly has come to an end. But nay, they are still the Seattle Mariners that are in the wild card hunt. They got swept in the first 3-game series at home against Houston. Then they swept the Texas Rangers. Then they went to Houston most recently, lost 3 of 4. And today they were in New York and lost 7-2. Currently sitting at 55 and 49. And I believe that's good enough for a wild card spot. I don't know which one. Let me bring up the standings.
It's the third, I believe.
It is the third wild card spot. That is correct. So, Kevin, what have you thought about the Seattle Mariners since the All-Star break?
We're not going to cover Julio.
I mean, you could bring up Julio for sure. Yeah, I was going to bring it up a little later, but feel free.
Well, I mean, it was cool to see Julio in the home run derby take second. And then the whole All-Star appearance for the short little bit, even though it ended up costing us a little bit. Because he went on, well, he was day-to-day for a little bit because of the game prior to the All-Star where he tried to slide into second base, but then slid into the second baseman's hand or foot, and then jammed his hand up, and then 3 days later hit 70-something home runs. Like, that's usually, I hear even on a young kid, it's probably not the best thing to do, but I'm just medically speaking, probably not great. Yeah, and then the whole run, we kind of slightly noted it on the last podcast that their schedule post All-Star game was going to be a little tough. Like you said, you had 2 series against the Astros. You're going to have 2 series against the Yankees. And then it's kind of smooth sailing after that because you have a lot of Oakland games, a lot of Angel games. You got Detroit for a series. You have Kansas City for a series. You have Cleveland for a series. Cleveland's like the only other one that's really maybe going to give you a little, that should, quote unquote, should. But I know Mariners like to do the thing where they like to play down to really, really bad teams for some weird reason. But, and I think we have Texas for like a series as well. But, yeah, Angels, that got weird, or excuse me, Angels, sorry. Astros. That definitely got weird and heated, and people need to stop getting hit by balls. And yeah. So if we could not do that for both sides, that'd be great. Just play baseball. Let's see. What else? Do you want me to cover the trade, or
we'll do that later?
We'll get to that in a little bit.
Okay. All in all, the pitching has been okay. I mean, people need to realize too, like, Astros are still a very, very good team. Like, they're pretty good. I hear they have the 3rd best record, but that, I haven't checked today. I know they're kind of like neck and neck with the Dodgers for like 2nd/3rd best record in the league. So, but they're a good club. So, we're going to lose him. And then I hear the Yankees are really good too, with the best overall record. So people need to calm down a little bit. I hear that Aaron Judge guy is really good. Also, it's kind of like this, even though he's not the only third on that team, you probably should walk Aaron Judge. Just say you probably should walk him, or else you're going to have the results as what you had today. I personally kind of, because I have him in fantasy, so I don't mind the home runs, but when it's against Seattle, it also hurts me deep inside my soul. So, hitting wise, a little inconsistent, but also there's been a lot of injuries, mainly in the outfield, as you kind of saw with tonight's musical chairs rotation of that weird lineup. So all in all, I'm okay with the records post then because of all the injuries and playing against good teams. But now, especially with Haneker coming back on Friday, you need to start, and you're about to play poorer teams other than the series against the Yanks. You need to start taking series wins. Like, at least sweep at best, at least not take the series win. So.
Yeah, I mean, the streak, it's unfortunate had to come to an end, but I blame the All-Star break. I also blame the All-Star break for Julio getting hurt. So no All-Star game in Seattle next year. We're canceling it actually. But yeah, the Astros have just kind of owned the Mariners the last week. I've actually been able to catch quite a few games here and there. I caught the last game of the Texas series, and I've caught most of the Houston games actually, and then I was able to watch some of the Yankees game today. And the Mariners are struggling with injuries, as Kevin said. They have a lot of guys right now on the injured list, but there are some coming back, as he mentioned. Mitch Haniger, looks like Taylor Trammell is progressing well. Ty France is day to day right now with the wrist. He wasn't in today's game. And then he mentioned Julio got hit on the wrist against the Astros. Dylan Moore is out on the 10-day IL. So a lot of injuries. So hopefully the Mariners will recover. But like I said, the entire season, I don't care where the Mariners are until August. It is August, and they are in the hunt for a playoff spot. And that's really all I can ask. So, just like Kevin said, you've got some teams coming up that are not as good. So you need to play much better against them, and just get to the dance, and then whatever happens, happens. So, Sean, what do you think?
I mean, Kevin is right. Houston's super good, and so is New York. It's just that they got absolutely dominated by Houston. Like, I would have liked a little bit of fight from these guys, just a little bit. Logan Gilbert has definitely, like, he wouldn't get. I mean, he did his thing twice. Like, we're talking about, like, he showed up and he did enough. And this offense, now I get it. It's this Houston team is like, they're loaded, but it's just like they had chances. They didn't do it when they needed it. Robbie Ray was awful both times. Like, it's just, I know we're not competing with the Astros this year. That's not the goal. Never was going to be the goal. But show a little bit of fight, Mariners. Like, please, like, man, like, and I don't physically mean fight them. Like, just.
I mean, I actually might be okay with you fighting them. It depends on who fights them, but.
I mean, that's fine. But like show it on the field. Like let's get in there and like do some stuff. I get it's Verlander, man, but just like whatever you're doing ain't working. Whatever, like anything, just take 3 pitches. Like, that's quicker than grounding out in the first pitch and then like letting him go 9 innings or 8 innings. Like, something else, man. Like, just anything. And I get like injuries have just been just killing this team right now. But like, oh man, it's frustrating to watch. Just like they have a bunch of nobodies out there running around. And hopefully they're going to get back within this too. But like Kevin said, with the frustrating part is they sweeping Texas was huge, the Rangers. So that was, don't go, because without that, this is a terrible stretch, but they saved it with winning those 3 games. Their goal is just to keep their head above water, be within like 2 of the wild card. You can even fall out of the wild card on August 10th, the last game you play against the Yankees, because you're the second easiest strength of schedule the rest of the way out of any team after that. You pay basically no winning teams minus like Cleveland, who is the team you will probably be chasing in that. And then I think San Diego 2 games, and then Atlanta. That's about it.
Oh, that's right. We play the Padres.
Like a 2-game series in the middle.
Oh,
of
and we do have
Mhm.
Atlanta in September too.
Yeah, but that's it. Like you play the team in front of you for 7 games, if they were to pass you, which they probably will, because you play New York a bunch and they're pretty good. Like, and then it's just like Oakland A's and the Washington Nationals and Detroit Tigers. Like you are in the position to control your destiny at August 10th, barring you don't lose the next 9 games in a row or whatever it is. Just keep it close, keep within a couple games, and then you control your destiny. And like Matthew said, this is kind of what I wanted when the season started. Didn't think they'd make the playoffs, but just competitive baseball and let the young kids kind of do their thing. Young kids are doing their thing. It's great. And then just have some competitive baseball at the end of September, October. And it's shaping up to be that. But when you're this close, let's we're right there. You're right there. You see it. You see the finish line. Can you just beat, like, you go on a stretch where you play the Angels, Oakland, and Kansas City? Like, come on. Like, there's no Mike Trout even. Like, come on. Like, you could do it. Like, you could do it.
Actually, Mike Trout is going to come back for that series and then go back.
And that's
on
probably
the
it.
list.
Say I'm
Then,
knocking on wood.
Like,
Yeah.
there's no Frankie Montas. There's no Mike Trout. Like,
So walking, just walking.
there's nothing. There's nothing. Like, you should be able to be
Yeah, the
taking
game plan.
these
Walk
series.
Mike Trout.
You got to be taking these series from these people. So, like, it's there. It's like writings on the wall to at least make this very, very competitive against these teams at the end. So, and again, the Tampa Bays, the who's in the second wild card, the first wild card, Toronto, they're going to put Baltimore is the one after Cleveland. Cleveland's behind you, then Baltimore's a game after that. They play each other. They're going to beat each other up. So they're going to give you games. You just got to take care of your business. That's all that has to happen is the Mariners to make the playoffs. You have to beat crappy teams. Can you do it? Like, that's it.
And I do have good news. You don't have to see Justin Verlander until October, possibly. So that's very good news there.
And
Well,
you
I mean,
don't
that
have
would
to,
require us to win a playoff series. I don't think it's going to
other than possible the second series, you don't have to face Montez because the A's just traded him away. So like all the series that you're about to have with Oakland, because there's a ton. I think there's like 3 or 4 that you're about to have with Oakland. All you have to worry about is Blackburn.
There's 3. Yeah.
That's it. Like, just do it.
All right. Well, let's talk about the MLB trade deadline, which I believe is, I don't know what Eastern on Tuesday it is,
It's tomorrow.
but less than 24 hours until the trade deadline. And Juan Soto is still a Washington National. So just keep that in mind. But the Seattle Mariners made a splash last Friday, acquiring Luis Castillo from the Cincinnati Reds. They sent minor leaguers Noelvi Marte, sorry guys, Levi Stroud, Edwin Arroyo, and Andrew Moore. So this is what is his? What do they not have his numbers up here? Luis Castillo, 29-year-old right-hander, 4-4, 2.86 ERA, and 14 starts for the Reds this season, striking out 90, walking 28, and 85 innings. So, gonna be honest with you guys, didn't know who this was until the trade was announced. So, Sean, what is the significance of this trade?
Okay, well, I will tell you who Luis Castillo is. As someone who plays fantasy, he is a very good pitcher. Let's put in perspective, Matthew, 12-team leagues. He's like a third rounder every year. And that's because he plays for Cincinnati. Cincinnati is.
That's what I got AJ Brown in this year. So that's good.
Yeah, he is. He was probably gonna be second, maybe third in the Cy Young in the National League. It's Sandy Alcantara, who does he play for? Who's gonna win the National League Cy Young? Sandy Alcantara.
I want to say Braves.
Miami Marlins.
Oh.
But he's gonna run away with. Yeah, he's gonna run away with the National League Cy Young. So yeah, clearly. So but Castillo, if he met the minimum innings, because he missed the beginning of the year with an injury, but he's back and playing really well. If he met the minimum innings, he was gonna probably be second or third in the Cy Young. So like he's a dude. Like, let's be very real here. He's a dude. You could argue elite 1 or high end 2, whatever it is, but he's going to be front line. He's the guy who a lot of Mariners fans thought Robbie Ray was. After 1 year, they're like, oh my gosh, look at those numbers. I'm like, that is Castillo. Robbie Ray overachieved last year. He's kind of relaxing where he's supposed to be 3.8 or something like that, 3.5. Castillo's a sub 3 guy, like a Logan Gilbert. You got 2 guys sub 3 who You got Logan Gilbert has a buddy here who's going to go toe to toe with the Astros starters. Like, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's the guy. He's the dude. Do you want to break the whole thing down, or just about Luis Castillo, or?
Sure, keep going. Wait, hold on. Before you keep going, what number in the rotation? Is he 1? Is he 2?
Oh, he's your 1.
Your
He's
one.
your
Okay, all right.
He's your 1. Gilbert's your 2. Robbie Ray's your 3.
Okay.
So I've thought about this a lot, and I had a lot of downtime today. We listened to a lot of podcasts, listened to a lot of national media, taking a lot of information in on the trade deadline today as the trades were coming through. And I've said this on me and Kevin have a chat, and I said I was more sad about Edwin Arroyo leaving than I was Marte. Marte could be a very good player. I think he's the 33rd prospect in baseball. That is a drop of almost 30 spots from when the season started. He struggled a lot. Me and Kevin saw him. He did not do very well, but he has been very hot recently. Very, very hot. He's still above average player, but he gave a lot of people room for pause. And I think that's why the Mariners were more willing to do this move. If he had stayed hot all year and had been, because he's still in high A, like he never got promoted. That's how kind of like he's been at this point, because he played there last year and he just hasn't moved up yet. So there are more questions. His defense is horrible, so he's probably going to switch to third. He's not going to be a shortstop. Arroyo is the one who's the guy is smooth at shortstop and has just been blowing up. And he was not on anyone's radar and is like the 88th prospect in baseball now and is climbing. A lot of Mariners insiders actually have him as the best Mariners prospect, not Marte. Like, it takes a time to crack, the 100. You have to climb, you have to see things. But like a lot of people say right now, they'd rather have Arroyo than Marte slotted in there because that's just how smooth he looks. That's the one I think is going to hurt the most. I say about this trade is to get an elite player, like I talked to, Luis Castillo throws 100. Like he throws 100 dots, like just nasty stuff. And he's got another year of control after that. And unlike Soto, he is not a Boris agent, and there is a possibility if you want to throw money at him that he will sign an extension. So that is like if you sign this extension, that changes the whole things of this. But what hurt I think in this deal, we talked about this before, is you gave up both of your elite hitting prospects. Levi Stout is a monster arm in the Double-A, but you have tons of those guys. You have four guys in that rotation who are just monsters. So you're giving a position of strength. Yes, you're giving up one guy who's good, but you have Hancock. You still have Tyler Dollard. You still have these other guys who are just like sitting there waiting for their shot. I mean, Hancock was in the futures game. Hancock just won the minor league pitcher of the month. Like he had a sub 1.7 ERA for the last month. Like he's just killing people. So like he's not even the Mariners' best starter. So you have a position of need. Starting pitching is the currency in baseball. It is what everybody wants all the time, forever, and especially young starting pitching. The Mariners only had to give up one guy. The thing that sucked was you gave up your two best hitters. And the more I think about it, the more it hurts, honestly. The more it hurts. And the more that I saw the deals go through today is we gave up a ton compared to what the Yankees gave up for Frankie Montas. Like we unloaded. We gave up arguably our two best minor league prospects for a guy who I like a lot, and I like him more than Montas. But it's just it was a lot more than Montas. I think Matthew, you sent a video, what Brock said, Salk said on the thing, and he said everything correct. Like, this is the win now move, and I like it. The Mariner fans who wanted this streak to end have to love it, because regardless of what happened, you wanted this, and this is the move that do that. However, I think if Jerry was operating from a spot of we have to end the 21-year drought right now, that is a bad process. That is not how you look at this in totality. If he thinks this is the move they can make and sign Luis Castillo, then I'm all for this move. I don't care who they gave up, because he's an ace. And if you could sign him for like a 5-year extension or whatever you gave Robbie Ray, all for it, because you get 7 years of Luis Castillo, stud. Like you hope Hancock or Levi Stout or Tyler Dollard turns into even close to what Luis Castillo is. And if you could just get the guy, like that's what the Astros did with Verlander. They got a big minor league farm system. That's what the Dodgers did too. They got these big minor league farm systems. They got these guys loaded up, and then they traded for Trey Turner and Max Scherzer. They traded for Justin Verlander. You build a farm system to deplete it, because not every of these guys are going to pan out. Not all of them are going to have a spot to play. So you have to trade some of these guys. And Edwin Arroyo is like 19, 18. Like, he's not going to be here for a long time. And if your window's now, you trade him for a 29-year-old ace. That's what you got to do. But this one did, from what I saw with the market, it did sting more than I thought it would initially. I think we might have overpaid a little bit, but I'm okay with the player. The player is totally fine, and the market did what it did. But you got the guy you wanted, and there's no doubt the talent is there, and you have him for another year too.
So his contract expires after next year. Correct?
Yes, you have him for a year and a half.
Okay.
Yes, and he is the agents say, quote, signable, unlike Juan Soto, who is not really signable.
Okay, Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, this move kind of surprised me. It was in because me and Sean were talking about it, like when we were thinking we were in the Juan Soto sweepstakes,
which I would like to talk about in a second. But
yeah, where you have to give up everything in your grandmother to go get him, just because he's pretty much a top 5 hitter in baseball. That Juan Soto, as we were talking about, doesn't fully give you what you need in order to be a World Series contender. Pitching, as we've mentioned on this podcast, having a 3-person rotation in the playoffs is literally what makes or breaks teams most of the time to get to a World Series and championship. Having 3 strong guys. And now you kind of have that now. It was kind of flimsy. I think down the line you could have, because I think Kirby's going to get there, but Kirby's just too young. Kirby's going to be there possibly in about a year or two, kind of like what. So if you made the playoffs, all you had really was Gilbert, Robbie Ray, and then like question mark. It's like, do you really want to go in with Marco or Flexen? Like, Flexen would probably be your choice over Marco, but like it's still not the best looking. But now you have a way stronger 3-man rotation of what you would go through with Luis, Marco, God damn it, just because I said Marco, Luis, Gilbert, and Robbie as your 3 in your playoffs. Also, the fact that one thing that Sean didn't touch on that could make it to where he could sign is that he literally has buddies here already with Winker and Suarez, who were ecstatic, according to Twitter, that we signed him, and we're literally on the phone with him as the trade was being made and stuff, saying that he's going to love it here, yada yada yada.
I wonder what that conversation was like. Hey, bro, you're on our team now.
Well, it sounds like Suarez and Luis are like homies, or like we're like really tight at least while they're there. And Winker, probably was too. It's not. I mean, we're pretty much taking most of the Reds. I wouldn't be surprised if we were still in the Drury conversation for tomorrow, which kind of scares me a little bit because Brandon Drury's on. I mean, don't get me wrong, Brandon Drury's been great this year, but it's just I'm scared of what you give up to get him. But we won't go too crazy into that just because of time. But overall, as Sean mentioned, did we give up a lot for him? Yes, we did. You do have, as Sean mentioned previously on this podcast, you have the young 17-year-old kid that we're expected to sign this fall from the Dominican Republic, who's probably going to be your next shortstop prospect, other than our first rounder that we drafted this year, but he's 17, so you're not going to see him for minimum 4 years.
So the guy we drafted this year is a college guy.
Oh no, that's right. Sorry, I'm thinking the third baseman kid, the pitcher / third baseman who's 17. The third guy.
Yeah.
He's a dual player. He pitches, but he also plays third base. Sorry, yeah, he is college. So you could see him a little bit sooner. But I mean, you have a 6'3", 17-year-old who's getting Wander Franco and other big comparisons. So I think they were kind of comfortable with letting both of them go. I would have rather kept, like Sean said, I would have rather kept Arroyo. He's had a better, more consistent year and is better defensively at shortstop. Marte, though I will disagree with Sean's statement, Marte was actually the only thing going for the Aqua Sox when we went to see him. He was the only one that got on base. He was 2 for 4. No, sorry, he was 1 for 3 with a walk.
Yeah.
Um,
But
but-
the series in general is what I mean.
that is true. Yes.
He wasn't great in the series.
No, he
in
was
the
not.
individual game. Yeah, he was.
But he it feels like he got hot and then got cold, hot and cold, kind of like Seager type deal. Just which that's something you want consistency.
Especially when you're the low minors, you need to be breaking against those guys.
Yeah. So, and especially after what, like Sean mentioned, after what we saw from Montez, though, I mean, the Yankees kind of just get what they want. Sadly, it's stupid, but the Yankees have this weird power where they can like bully people into giving like, we're gonna give you this and you're gonna like it. Okay, here's our best player. So, all in all, I think it helps for this year and next year. What I expect to do, because now, as Sean mentioned, your hitting prospect, your best probably next hitting prospect is Ford.
But
He's 19 though, so he's pretty far. I mean, you could probably see him maybe end of year call-ups next year, but I imagine I'm not going to see him probably at minimum until 2023, 2024.
I say that Hancock was the minor league. Ford was the Mariners hitter of the month individually. He was very, very good. Yeah.
So he's now your next top hitting prospect, unless somebody just randomly comes out of the blue and goes ape shit. But what I expect them to do is now you need to get busy in free agency in the fall and look into getting hitters, getting a second base replacement, unless Frazier freaking figures it out somehow. Which he's been doing better over the past couple games, but like as Sean mentioned, we need to see consistency. Like, it's got to be there. No, do not go get Robinson Cano.
Yeah, Frazier's a fine placeholder, but he's definitely upgradable. You could upgrade over Frazier for sure.
Yeah, you and I'd like to see an upgraded shortstop, not gonna lie, but
I think he's got a 5-year deal. I think we're just.
I know. Sadly, I have a feeling that Crawford.
Don't you hate JP Crawford? How dare you?
He's not been good, man.
He's
not been
good. I know.
Okay, that I need results on the field, man. You need to hit some dingers.
Team Layer doesn't put points on the board. But yeah. Unfortunately, he's going to be your shortstop until either the kid we drafted this year or the Dominican Republic kid. Celestin is his name?
Yeah, well, that's a long ways away.
Yeah, so probably for at least the next 3 years.
Trevor Story and JP Crawford are the exact same war right now. I will say Trevor Story hasn't played for a month.
Yeah, he's been hurt, and he's on the IL.
I will say that, but
he's on the IL right now too. So I think he just went on the IL like yesterday. But
no, he's been on the IL for a while. He's been hurt, but then they finally put
maybe they shifted him. I think they went.
Yeah, they shifted him because he's been on the IL for a while, but they finally put him on there now.
So, all in all, like I said, sorry, long stretches. I like the trade. We gave up a lot for him, sure. So now get your butt busy in free agency to get some hitters, get your guys healthy back. Because I think with this team, with Haniger coming back, and if Ty gets healthy and Julio gets healthy, I think you have enough hitting power to make a decent playoff push. But in order to go World Series like next year, which is what your plans should be aiming for, you need to go get some big boy free agency hitters and sign them. Because now you got the pitching, because Kirby's eventually going to slide into your fourth, and then it's trickling down to, does Hancock be your fifth, and you do what you did with Kirby this year? Because Marco and Flexen are just
Flexen's gone after this year. His deal's up.
Push him into the closet. They're not. Marco can go trickle somewhere.
Marco's going to have an interesting offseason. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, he is. So we'll see what they do from there. But yeah, if you want to go World Series next year, you need to spend in this offseason to clean up and get some big boy bats. So that's all.
Yeah, so if Luis Castillo is everything you guys have built him up to be, I absolutely love this trade. I have always been, for the most part, proven over prospects, and that is definitely what this trade was. Sure, the prospects were very high rated, but they are still prospects. And Luis Castillo is a proven pitcher, as you guys have mentioned. So I love this move because it kind of says, like, we are trying to make the playoffs this year. Now, Sean, Kevin probably have their different takes on this, but you're in a position right now to possibly make the playoffs. So I get that future years matter, but right now you are in a position to make the playoffs. So try to make the playoffs. And I think this trade is a step towards that. So if Luis Castillo is as good as you guys say he is, then sounds like most of the time he steps on the mound, we're going to win the game. So that's a good sign. So I like that, I like kudos to Jerry for making this move. I'm sure it wasn't easy giving up some of your prospects, but like you guys have said, pitching is what drives your game in the playoffs, and this certainly addresses that. So big fan of this move because you may not be in this position in the future. Sure, we're trying to build for that, but at this point right now, you are in a position to make the playoffs. So try and make the playoffs, and I can't ask for anything more than that. So big fan of this trade. So we've got about 5 minutes left. Let's talk, Sean, about that Juan Soto situation. What do you have to say about Juan Soto, and when will he be a Mariner? Is it early morning tomorrow or like
No,
early
so
afternoon?
you guys at any
We're not
point can jump in and talk about something if I'm bringing some up. But I wanted to talk about what the Mariners fan base was talking about and what like logically thinking of like what it was with Juan Soto. So before this all started, about a month and a half ago, everyone was talking on Mariners Twitter, and they're taking polls, doing all these things. What do you need? We need a starting pitcher and a second baseman, right? Like Adam Frazier was struggling. We need a second baseman, starting pitcher, second baseman, starting pitcher. Then the Nationals come out and say, like, we cannot sign Juan Soto. We're going to trade him. And everyone's like, trade everything for Juan Soto. And I said, we just talked about how we needed a starting pitcher and a second baseman. To my knowledge, Juan Soto does not pitch, and he does not play second. Now, I get he's an upgrade. I'm absolutely over whichever you have. However, the rumors were you trade Hancock, you trade Kirby, and you trade these other things. And I was like, when we talked about what everybody wants, undeniably the currency of baseball. Ken Rosenthal was on a podcast that I listened to today at noon. The currency of baseball is young, controllable starting pitchers. The Mariners were going to give up two of those guys, and from a position they needed. So, like, could you imagine giving up Tyler and DK, a position that you like, or I don't know, a position that you need, but you have like one or two guys that are still could be really good at that, but you give those away to get a position you don't exactly need. I'm not saying the outfield's a luxury because there's a lot of questions out there in the outfield still, but like you have the thing everybody wants, and you still need it yourself too. So don't give that away for a position you don't 100% need right now, because again, what we talked about, Juan Soto doesn't fix the biggest need of your team. He doesn't make you a World Series contender. He doesn't make you that deep run guy. Let's say we somehow make the playoffs this year. Like somehow, I don't know how, like we would have made the playoffs with Marco being whatever he is and Robbie Ray and all these other guys. In a 3-game series, you're throwing out Marco Gonzalez as your third in a playoff series. That's not acceptable playoff team material. That's not, you're going to get run out of the stadium with that. You needed 3 guys who are going to, now I didn't think they were going to make the Castillo thing, but you needed a third guy who was a legit, like, I could start you in the playoffs and be comfortable with that. They went and got the opposite, and which was like, you're definitely comfortable starting Luis Castillo in the playoffs. Like, yes, please. But like, Luis Castillo didn't, or Juan Soto didn't. You could definitely use a Juan Soto. However, I was arguing with people online. I go, yes, like right now, if you trade for Juan Soto, and like Kevin said, Mitch Haniger comes back, you're now having to bench Kyle Lewis, who did the only good thing for the Mariners today, hit a home run. You're benching either Kyle Lewis, Mitch Haniger, or Julio Rodriguez, or Juan Soto. You can't play all of them. And that's the only position you have. You need other infield. You need a second baseman hitter. You don't really need another of the outfielders if everything's healthy. And Jerry DiPoto has to assume everybody's going to be healthy, because how can you assume 7 outfielders are going to get hurt? Like, so you have to logically be like, okay, one of these guys are going to get healthy. We're going to be fine. Maybe Jared Kellett comes up and hits. But like my need right now is that starting rotation, and he is the opportunity cost. What is Juan Soto over Mitch Haniger? Yes, it's an upgrade, but how much of an upgrade versus how much is Luis Castillo an upgrade over Marco Gonzalez? That is the opportunity cost. That the pitching side is much more of an upgrade and makes you much more of a, not necessarily you're saying a legit contender now, but in the next offseason, you could sign one more bat maybe, or trade for a bat in the offseason. And then you're like, hey, we can actually do a run at this thing, versus you sign Juan Soto You waste this year because you're not winning anything this year. Done for 1 year. This half of the year is gone. You then need to go into the starting pitching market, which is terrible next year, or compete with all these other people who want to trade for a starting pitcher. You're now in this market where everybody's trying to do all these things and fight with all these things and do all these things versus you get them now. You sit there now. You traded one of your young guys for an established guy. You still have Kirby and Hancock. Or if somebody wants Hancock or Tyler Dollard, if you in the offseason want a young controllable Juan Soto or somebody like that, you still have two young crazy arms you could trade that guy for. You now allow those guys to be expendable because you saw George Kirby. George Kirby last year, or Logan Gilbert last year was worse than George Kirby was. George Kirby was better as a rookie than Logan Gilbert was. And we saw what Logan Gilbert turned into with this process with another year. Kirby, I don't think is going to take the Logan Gilbert jump, but he's going to take a jump. Could you imagine those two, Robbie Ray and now Luis Castillo, a whole season of those guys? You can trade your Hancock. You can trade your Tyler Dollard, get a young, controllable second baseman, get a young, whatever, maybe, because Mitch Haniger's gone. You can get an outfielder if you need an outfielder the next year. You can trade whatever you need those guys for. But now you're able to trade from that strength that everybody wants. All of these teams want young, controllable pitchers. You can now do that now, but you couldn't before because you couldn't give up all those guys for one player. And then you had no for sure starting pitching. And you had Juan Soto, who can't play defense, can't steal bases, hits a ton, but plays a position that you're not super, super weak at as it is. So I'm just like, we all knew the issues with this team. Juan Soto, the flashy Juan Soto is shown, and then all Mariner fans forgot about everything. And I'm like, guys, like, I'm glad. And then we saw the price for Luis Castillo. Can you imagine the price for Juan Soto? Like, could you absolutely imagine what that would have taken to get that guy? And the point at the end of it all is you are going to burn this year because you're not going to compete. You're going to burn next year because you don't have enough capital and there's not enough guys to fix the rest of your roster. So at the end of the day, you maybe were trading all of your minor league pitching for maybe 1 year shot at really making a playoffs. And I'm like, guys, it didn't seem like Matthew just said, like you said, they have a legit chance now with Luis Castillo. I would rather have this than maybe one shot at the end for a legit run and put all my eggs in. I have 1 year to win everything and then we're done. Or I have 3 years or 2 years and a legit chance to sign the guy, maybe extend him a little bit and balance this out, but don't trade absolutely everything and give tradable pieces away still.
Also, I'm going to comment just add on to it. The fact that now you still have a farm system. Like, let's be, we traded some stuff.
It is a lot weaker, but yes. Yeah.
You still have a decent farm system. You're going to add a crazy like prospect kid, sign him this offseason. That gives you now more incentive to Luis Castillo to sign to this club. Like, especially if we start getting serious in the offseason and sign a big free agent acquisition, a pitcher like Luis Castillo with having buddies like Suarez and stuff like here is probably going to want to stay with a team that's getting serious, looking to make playoff pushes and contend for a World Series when he's been on the shitty Reds for last 5 years. So that's also a big plus to not going after the Juan Soto and doing the smart trade is now you still have pieces to, as Sean mentioned, to trade to build a more complete club. And that's going to pique Luis Castillo's interest to sign with this club and stay here after next year.
So, yeah, like you'll be like, hey, we have pieces to then trade, or you want to keep Hancock and have it be your 5? Because I mean, that dude looked nasty during the futures game. Like, you're going to roll up 5 dudes that are going to get you when you could possibly roll up 5 dudes who are going to be nasty. Like, there's a lot of teams who would kill for that right now. Now you might not have the hitters, but like you're doing stuff. You're doing the right process rather than driving bank for a defensive liability right fielder. Granted,
all right, well, we got the headline for this podcast. Sean and Kevin think Juan Soto is overrated, not worth trading for. So
no,
he is very good.
Talk about like what we gave up for Castillo, and they're not even in the same world. But like what we would have had to decimate this system to give a Juan Soto when we just got out pitched by Houston. Like that wasn't the issue. Yeah, we couldn't hit, but Juan Soto's not going to make up 11 or 10 runs 2 days ago. He's not going to make
how many home runs he in the Derby? Like, I think he could do that.
But he didn't. He's not going to hit. What did we lose by today? 5. He's not going to be worth 5 runs today. You needed a pitcher today. Like, I think, is he slated to start? Castillo slated to start tomorrow or Wednesday?
Wednesday.
I think tomorrow. Oh, okay, Wednesday. So like,
Flex
you
in
need
tomorrow, I believe.
the arms.
It's Gilbert.
Like,
Was it Gilbert? Oh, it's
Yeah,
Gilbert.
Gilbert,
Yeah.
Castillo, Ray, Flex, and Kirby.
and
Yeah.
that's what makes me happy. Like, you got Gilbert. Like, I'm really confident Gilbert, Kirby, Ray, Castillo. Like that makes me really happy. For a full season of all 4 of them, are you kidding me? Like, teams would kill for half of that. But like,
bullpen we have too.
yeah, and then the bullpen's nasty. Like, you just need to fill up. And like, we've now established that, like, we traded for Juan Soto. We still have offensive needs. We still have that second base need. We still have some other needs. But now that you solidified the starting pitching, you've got that. You only need a couple pieces now on offense, and you have some guys in the minor, and you have some guys in the minors to trade other teams, because the free agent market this offseason is like a colossal. It's like a desert. There's like basically nobody. The best free agent is Mitch Haniger, which, like, that tells you everything you need to know. Or Nolan Arenado if he decides to opt out, but he's gonna stay. So let's just be very real here. But like, it's just like, so you're gonna have to trade, but like, I'm okay with trading a Hancock now because you have other pitchers, and this team develops pitchers very well. You could trade your best pitching prospect and another hitter or whatever, 2 pitchers, and be like, hey, I don't know, Brian Reynolds, come play outfield for us. Like, I don't know if you needed one, but just as the first name that came to mind, just younger guy with 3 years of control, come play over here for us, because we'll give you 2 starting pitchers, because that's what everybody wants and everybody needs. 2 young pitchers who have 5 years of control left. Take them, and we'll take your best hitter. Like, that's just like, you could easily make those moves, but we kept all of our super valuable resource. And I'm, as much as it sucked to get up with 2 hitters, man, it really sucked.
Well, let's just hope that you're both wrong and Jerry sells the farm by the time this podcast is posted. And we have Juan Soto and a nice, what number is Juan Soto?
Okay, well, I'll tell you this. Matt. I'll tell you
I'm
this.
just,
No.
I'm playing devil's advocate.
You
messing
sell the
with you.
farm. I am absolutely selling the farm, but you have to guarantee me 2 things. They both sign extensions. If you sign Juan Soto and Luis Castillo extensions, I give you every single top 30 prospect I can give you. I'll do it in a heartbeat.
You guys know the trade market better than I do. I saw the rumblings, and as a Mariner fan, I assumed that wasn't a realistic possibility because we are the Seattle Mariners. So
No.
I never thought it was going to be realistic anyway. But
we had the capital, I think, to get there. The issue is, I think Jerry made the smart call. If this is what because he called, and the Mariners were like one of the final 6 teams for Juan Soto. I don't think Juan Soto gets moved because I don't think anyone's going to be willing to pay the price this year. I think he gets moved in the offseason because it's just too high. It's just so ridiculously high, and it shouldn't be. That's my theory from the start. Was if Washington wants to come down on the price, that is fine. But if you're going to pay market value for Juan Soto, it is different if the Dodgers decimate their farm system. It is different if the Astros do. It's different if the Yankees do, because they are ready to win the World Series now. The Mariners are not. The Mariners need some of those guys still to get them there. Juan Soto won't get you to that's because you still need more than just a Juan Soto. Those 3 teams and those other teams, like those guys, are fighting against each other because they are major league ready to win the World Series, and they want to be bumped up above them. The Mariners are like, we're rung down. Juan Soto doesn't bring you that rung because he can't do that by himself. If Mike Trout can't do that by himself, Juan Soto's not doing that by himself. You need other guys there with him, and we're not at that tier yet. And so Luis Castillo, we bumped up a little bit, not all the way, but we still have some of the pieces there. And that's what we didn't decimate our farm for one guy who wasn't going to be the final piece there we thought he was going to be. If the market came down, and if we could trade exactly what we get for Luis Castillo for Juan Soto plus Hancock, I would have done a heartbeat. But it sounds like it's not even close. And I'm like, at what point? I'm not giving you all top 10 of my guys and being left with nothing. Like, the Mariners aren't ready for that yet.
Well, I'm just going to say, trade deadlines tomorrow. Juan Soto is still going to be national. I don't think he's going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere. It's too much. Like they're talking about it. It's just too much.
All right. Well, let us know what you think of the Mariners these last couple of weeks. The Julio injury, the Luis Castillo trade. Go ahead and tweet us. I am at Baderscore. Sean's at Sean Scoretti. Kev is at C2Believe, SEA2Believe on Twitter. Go ahead, comment on our videos. Tell us what you think on YouTube. Like our videos, dislike our videos. Next week, we will be back, hopefully, with more Mariners. probably a little bit of Seahawks news before their first preseason game, and we'll touch on the rain, the storm, and the Sounders. So with that, we will see you next time on Washington East to West Sports.